Turn around for me. You made me feel that love. No, ma'am. Walk up to the tail next to me.
July 22nd, GloRilla was arrested on drug-related charges. Despite the short duration of her confinement, it was anything but routine. She was allegedly beaten while in custody soon after being booked, according to rumors. So who was to blame for the hit? And what did really happen in that prison? I am fully informed. Let's get started. The Trap. The story of a gorilla being mauled in a prison is currently in the news. But to be clear, this isn't just another awkward celebrity moment. This seems like the deliberate destruction of a rising black star caught in a mudslide, being assaulted while behind bars, as well as what many are calling fraudulent drug charges. All for being frank, successful, and unapologetically herself. The fact that she wasn't even home when it started is the most disturbing part. Let me clarify. Early on Sunday morning, GloRilla was playing at the WNBA during the Indianapolis All-Star Game. 3 trespassers allegedly broke into her home in a gated area. In the dead of night, they supposedly bashed their way in with the steel. At this point, the situation abruptly shifts to the left. One of the residents, who is allegedly a family member, fires a gun at the attackers. They run away. The break-in has been stopped. Instead of scurrying to secure the area and locate the criminals, what do the cops do once they arrive? They allegedly found over 2.80 pounds of marijuana and THC wax in the master bedroom during their raid. Nor the burglars, nor the invader. When they found cannabis, they charged GloRilla. Think about that for a moment. When robbers stole into her home, it was she who was taken into custody. Authorities invaded GloRilla's lavish Forsyth County house. While she was performing for a shouting crowd at the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis, hundreds of miles away. It couldn't have arrived at a more depressing or convenient moment. Her lawyer immediately reacted to the arrest as improbable, stating that she was clearly the victim of a crime rather than a suspect in one. GloRilla didn't hide or run away. Either she gave up. $22,000 was the bail amount. The mug went viral in a matter of minutes. Social media became popular. Trolls flocked to her comments with accusations. Memes proliferate like wildfire. Suddenly, a famous rapper singing at a WNBA All-Star room took the headlines instead of GloRilla getting apprehended during a marijuana bust. She is accustomed to scrutiny. A little over a year ago, she was arrested in another dubious way. Anticipated that GloRilla would have a normal drive that evening, either from a performance studio or private event. But police body cam footage of the entire incident is already in the public domain, on YouTube. When the officers begin questioning the GloRilla, she stops on the video, slurring a little and seeming clearly confused. She initially makes an effort to deny the event. But when authorities inquire about the number of drinks she has consumed, the subject shifts. She keeps saying 4, 7, and I'm not drunk. The officer's response, however, is cold and calculated.
Not only can I smell alcohol coming from your breath, but I can also smell marijuana coming from this car.
A few seconds later, GloRilla confesses to something that turns a DUI into a potential crime.
I have a gun registered to my name.
It was her own words. It was at this moment that the audience would know her fate. The officer steps in to make the arrest despite her attempts to reason.
Turn around for me.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take the pill. I'm taking the pill.
That doesn't change anything. You still are going to be arrested.
For what? You don't have any proof on me.
No, ma'am, I do.
In a flash, she was booked. But reckless driving and traffic stops have nothing to do with this most recent incident. It has to do with concentration, because soon after GloRilla was arrested, rumors began to spread from inside the Forsyth County jail. Someone close to the jail claims that she got into a violent altercation with another inmate and sustained visible injuries, including bruises and potentially a busted lip. That the guard surge saw it, and that her identity may have even been the reason for her deliberate targeting. Think about that for a moment. Despite not being present when drugs were discovered at her residence, a famous person gets imprisoned and assaulted while in detention. Sheriff Ron Freeman's terse public statement reads more like a legal disclaimer than an act of responsibility. So let's break it down. They understand that she's a victim, that her home was broken into, that her privacy was violated, that armed intruders had to be fired at to escape, and yet she was the one leaving in handcuffs and was making her way out of the jail, assaulted. This isn't related to marijuana. This concerns power, the criminalization of achievement, and the consequences that arise when a black woman from Memphis pushes herself too hard, too fast, and too loudly for white America to bear. The attack. The events that took place in that prison cell had a purpose. Bad luck wasn't the only factor. It was inevitable. Because as soon as GloRilla's name appeared in the booking system, the narrative was no longer about a break-in. The actual criminals who broke into her home and took pricey jewels had nothing to do with it. The emphasis switched to tearing her apart, a woman who performed on award show platforms, a woman who privately texted Rihanna. One woman once started crying in Beyoncé's dressing room. After removing her chains and expensive shoes, she was thrown into a mugshot and was now just another prisoner. They were also picked out for isolation, humiliation, and assault, according to jailhouse informants. A few hours before the attack, she was taken to the Forsyth County Jail. Other inmates immediately recognized GloRilla and, not with admiration, envy, animosity, or, in some cases, hate, according to case-related individuals who spoke on condition of anonymity. She became a target as soon as she stepped inside. A blogger from Memphis who has written on the conditions in Georgia prisons claims that one former inmate stated, "GloRilla reportedly heard a woman yell, 'Oh, you're not too famous to get touched.'" Another allegedly called her a fake gangster and ridiculed her music. She was not separated by the guards. She was thrown among the regular crowd as if she were unimportant. Within minutes, a verbal altercation broke out. One inmate is accused of initiating a violent altercation by punching her and yanking her hair, while another source says that Glo's head struck a concrete wall during the altercation, and another says that she had a split lip and was clearly upset. This was the kind of arrangement you could see coming for miles, and since this is a prison, nobody stepped in to stop it. Officers were shaken by the time they intervened, but the most shocking part is that there is no evidence that she received medical attention. Despite the rapidly growing social media uproar, there was no hospital visit, no public acknowledgement of an incident, and no statement from the Forsyth County Jail. What is even more vicious than the actual attack is the institutional gaslighting that follows such incidents, wherein they deny what happened and act as if it never happened. The system sends a clear message. Your suffering is inconsequential. It doesn't matter how safe you are, you'll be unable to speak. This is how they make people question their own reality and harm them physically and psychologically. It's really concerning how this reflects the treatment of black women. The same forces that once denied enslaved women their basic humanity now exert their influence through prison systems, media narratives, and industrial gatekeepers. Let's take a closer look at her legal situation in Georgia. Possession of 1 ounce of marijuana is a felony, and deputies found approximately 3 pounds on her. Throughout American history, beginning with slavery and continuing to the present, black women's suffering has been minimized, their voices ignored, and their stories erased from official documents. Bedroom and 2 THC wax vials, but it's not the weight that's the legal problem, but the lack of physical possession. GloRilla was performing out of state when the raid occurred, so she wasn't there, and she didn't have the drugs on her person. More importantly, the house was occupied by someone else. Her attorneys claim that a family member had been living there. The house was occupied by others while she was away. So why did the police simply accuse her of the drug? Because in the American legal system, being a celebrity has its benefits and drawbacks. And while your name matters, if you are well known, it is easier to arrest a well-known person when it comes to criminal charges. Keep in mind, Forsyth County's violent, racial past. Not only are you following the law when you arrest a black woman like GloRilla, but you're also sending a message when you display her mug on TV and in the news. The target's location seems intentional. The county of Forsyth has only recently attempted to overcome its reputation for having an all-white population and violently evicting black families in the early 1900s, but remnants of that history still exist. Is not just any state. It is a place where black families were forced to flee due to organized violence, where racial fear once ruled openly, and where memories of lynchings and ethnic cleansing are etched in the soil itself. GloRilla's success, property ownership, and presence as a strong black woman challenge every foundation upon which that county was built. And the legal system's response shows the underlying anxiety that her accomplishment represents. Such a success story threatens the narrative that upholds repressive institutions and silence in the industry. Days ago, WNBA representatives booked her. Where are they now? Where are the streaming services that support the system's existence? This woman broke free from cycles of poverty and violence, succeeded, bought real estate in their affluent communities, and dared to live a loud and genuine life. We saw it when Megan Thee Stallion was publicly questioned about her trauma. And we saw it with Cardi B. The artists she called mentors were absent, as were those who shared her music and stories, congratulated her on her Grammy nomination, or contributed pictures. Not at all, because when the system comes for a black woman, they all disappear. GloRilla's arrest was for marijuana. It's the same drug that white celebrities have made jokes about in interviews, smoked on TV, and used to introduce new product lines. Seth Rogen owns a cannabis company. Miley Cyrus has used marijuana in the past. But the fact that it had nothing to do with violence, guns, or confrontation makes this feel even more strange. Performances, but GloRilla is charged with a felony for being near it. This is a type of selective criminalization that is part of a bigger trend than the media would like to admit. The double standard is even more pronounced when you consider the broader context of cannabis legalization in America. Even if GloRilla is charged with a felony, people who are not like her have built entire industries around marijuana. The fact that the war on drugs has always been a fight against specific communities is far more pernicious. The same chemicals that land black women in prison are turned into wellness products and artistic experiences when promoted to different populations. The same plant that threatens to ruin her life has made millionaires out of venture investors, software entrepreneurs, and celebrity endorsers, most of whom are white, is not an exception. The system is functioning exactly as planned. The timing of her arrest also raises concerns about the coordination between law enforcement and commercial interests. It appears to be organized due to the consistent pattern of building them, allowing them to settle in and then demolishing them. Convenient legal issues appear to arise when artists become very independent, vocal, or influential. I am the only one arrested after my house was broken into. GloRilla, however, did not die in silence. After bonding out for $22,000, she criticized the system on social media, saying they focus on some cannabis rather than tracking down the suspects. GloRilla, through X, her admirers responded with fury. Within hours, Hashfrio gained popularity, expressed their anger as it became clear that this was a takedown rather than just a bad arrest. Bloggers started to connect. In her 2024 360 with Speedy interview, she said,
It feel good, actually. I love it. Like, it help you. And sometimes, like, we need to hear people talk or criticism and shit. And so it can make us remember, okay, I got to get back on my, you know what I'm saying, on my P. In terms
the fact that she consistently appears when people question her, even in the face of hate attacks, and breaks the pattern even when the system tries to bury her behind solid Barriers made it foreboding. Before the mugshot photo, the handcuffs, the jail cell, Gloria Hallelujah Woods, a girl from the Fraser neighborhood of North Memphis, had 10 siblings, a brilliant imagination, a deep love of music, and a strong dedication to God. Hallelujah was heard. Oh, no studio, no label, just a dream, and a movement was born. To fully understand the horror of what happened in that Forsyth County jail cell, you had to start at the beginning and understand the hardships she faced to get there, since GloRilla did not inherit prosperity. Rather, she built it with GloRilla's mother is raising 10 children on faith and tenacity, while she and her siblings live in small quarters and sleep on air mattresses. She has been open about the fact that she had little during her childhood. She once revealed that her mother had marked her, saying that there was always something strange about her. It's called that, although it's not unique in that this led to her strong faith. Thank God it wasn't a coincidence.
It's called Glow's prayer. I'm praying to God, like, God, please don't ever let me do that again.
In high school, she started rapping seriously under the name Big Glow. The early songs were raw, with improvised beats, lyrics full of local slang, and handcrafted images, but she had something. She grew up in the church, sang in choirs, and at first wanted to be a gospel performer. But she also experienced the harsh realities of poverty, crime, struggle, and the streets and music became her escape. And producer Hit Kid released FNF in April 2022 with no intention of topping the charts. She had a distinct voice, a hunger in her delivery, and an inherent charisma that shows through on camera. She lacked polish, but despite her lack of industry training, she was sincere. I am completely free. It was supposed to be a gritty, high-energy song about freedom, independence, and female solidarity that would serve as an anthem for the summer, the kind of music that is played loudly during backyard kickbacks and stoplights. Within a few weeks, it went viral on TikTok, and women all over the world were singing the hook like a war cry. GloRilla was being hailed as the breakthrough star of FNF, which had accumulated tens of millions of streams by the end of the summer. The low-budget video was shot in Memphis and featured her homegirls twerking on the hoods of cars while screaming into the camera. But that was the secret. It looked like us. The business couldn't ignore it. Because it was real, loud, black, southern, and hood-free. Cardi B made a statement. The cosigns came, and their release of Tomorrow 2 was an instant hit, debuting in the Billboard Top 10 and going viral on its own. Bet performances and award nominations followed, and she later disclosed that she had sobbed inside Beyoncé's She Wasn't Being Modest. She wasn't faking it. And she was genuinely overwhelmed by the fact that the same girl who watched Bad Girls Club on her phone while getting tattoos was suddenly on the same stage as her idols. However, her rise wasn't solely due to viral publicity. She was also getting real praise, with appearances on the lineups of nearly every major music festival in 2023, a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Performance, a record deal with Yodi CMG reportedly worth over $500,000, and the BT Hip Hop Awards. GloRilla was suddenly more than just an artist. She was a name. She had a distinct style, language, and memes, and her gritty, fearless, and distinctive voice became her trademark. There were warning signs, though, because when GloRilla started talking about how hard it was for her to love and how much heartache she held, she showed that you didn't need to be well-groomed, suburban, or ready for the workforce to succeed. She was embraced by women all over the country, especially young Black women. She was healing even at the height of her fame. But something deeper surfaced about how she had been harmed in the past. Because fame did not erase the trauma, it widened it. She even took part in a public 60-day celibacy challenge in an effort to cleanse herself emotionally and spiritually from the chaos around her.
It was 60.
60 day.
Yeah.
60 day. What made you want to lock in and and do like a 60-day celibacy thing.
This was more than just a wave artist. As the world watched and judged her, this woman was rebuilding herself in real time, and her weakness became both a strength and a weakness. In a society that rewards authenticity and penalizes honesty, GloRilla's openness about her struggles made her relatable to fans, but wary of business gatekeepers. For women like GloRilla, the surveillance that comes with being famous is particularly harsh. Every move is monitored. Every relationship is scrutinized. Every mistake is highlighted. And when things go wrong, the same authenticity that made her famous becomes the rope that hangs her. She was too real, too human, and too honest about her flaws to be the perfect victim. We saw her rise, which is why her arrest was so severe. We saw her struggle, we saw her survive, and then they charged her with a felony. But GloRilla's arrest was not a singular event. It started long before the police raid on her home. The clock started running as soon as GloRilla became well known. And eventually, she became too loud, too hooded, too sexual, too real, and ultimately too dangerous. She is just the latest in a long line of female rappers who were rejected by the industry. And the destructive machinery never stops. They begin. By depleting these women of all their marketable energy, they study their moves. It's not a coincidence. It's a purposeful system designed to prevent Black women from acquiring the kind of power that would overthrow established hierarchies. Take their language and package their suffering for a broader audience. And then, when the women demand fair compensation, creative control, or basic human decency, they suddenly become difficult, disruptive, or unmarketable. The blueprint for Foxy. Foxy Brown was once untouchable, a teenage sensation with a larger-than-life appearance and unmatched poetic skill. Rap royalty in the 90s was defined by Foxy. The industry maintains power while seemingly celebrating diversity by quickly cycling through artists and dumping them before they can create lasting wealth or impact. Signed at age 16, she became multi-platinum by age 18. The media then focused on her behavior, her outburst, and her legal troubles. When she began to lose her hearing, she developed a terrible and very personal medical condition. Did the industry support her? No. They left her. Another pioneer, Brat, the lyrical monster Remy Ma goes in the business. She was the first solo female rapper to achieve platinum status, but everything changed when she was arrested in 2007 for assault during a fight in a nightclub. The industry was quiet during her 3 years of service, and she didn't receive any label deals, industry red carpets, or welcome home singles when she returned home. Megan Thee Stallion is still fighting and active, but let's face it, she never really recovered from her ordeal with Tory Lanez. In 2008, she was sentenced to 8 years in prison for shooting a friend, and the media didn't highlight her artistic abilities because of her gangster reputation, her anger, and her temper. She went to court and won. What did the industry do? Kyo men ridiculed her. She was accused of lying by blogs. Kyo said my lols, a fellow artist, stopped returning her calls after she called her sister on the red carpet. Perhaps the saddest case of all is that of Aaliyah Banks. An undeniable genius in the field of Azealia Banks's demonization serves as a warning to other Black people. Music, unfiltered, bold, and visionary. She was killed by the press because of that last statement. She refused to stop talking, which made her unmarketable. She exposed bigotry, colorism, and double standards in real time without the use of a public relations filter. Her example shows how the business pathologizes justified anger while defending the structures that first generate it. Using mental health stigma as a weapon? If you bring out systemic issues too much, you risk being labeled as crazy or challenging. Particularly cruel how these women's legitimate grievances are reframed as personal failings. And when they call racism out, they're called suspicious. They are labeled divas when they demand fair treatment. They are dismissed as unstable when they don't smile when mistreated. And because gaslighting happens so frequently, even there, followers fall for these lies sometimes. What do these women have in common then? They were incredibly smart. They all became liabilities because, in today's music industry, female rappers are disposable and are only allowed to succeed for a limited time if they remain successful, obedient, trouble-free, and attractive. Additionally, the moment they stray, the moment they are caught or arrested, after an interview or ownership demand, the machine shuts off. So we go back to GloRilla, who is at a crossroads. Her bond has been paid, her name is well known, but her profession is in a perilous position. The truth is that she isn't being punished for a crime, so she's acting. They were afraid of her because they knew what she stood for, so they committed a crime against her and let her go to jail. She is a refined girl who doesn't talk, a female who doesn't feel bad about her lyrics, her anger, or her accent, and a girl who would sooner be bankrupt than sell her soul. We're not going to let them. When this time, GloRilla is not an amateur. Her charges are not her. They let the blogs trash her, but you know what? Still honest. She's not alone either. She's following in the footsteps of all the women who were buried by the industry. She's not the silence of the industry. She's not the bruises on her face. She's the product of a black girl growing up in the neighborhood. And she speaks for a generation that doesn't care about respectability, polish, or being near white people. She's confident and anarchic, grit and gospel, triumphant and traumatized. Even a prison cell cannot silence her because of her strong sense of self-worth. GloRilla continues to be used, regardless of this system's feelings. Thank you for watching. Look at more cards on the screen.